Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. Today's video is a preview of preseason game one, the New York football Giants versus the Detroit Lions. And not only do we get to see a preseason game, we decided also to have a joint practice with the Detroit Lions, which was an excellent idea from Dable, from Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions. It's a fantastic idea for these two young teams that are in a similar situation, in my opinion, up and coming, teams in the NFC, for these guys to have a joint practice. Now, a couple of things that I'm looking forward to in this practice is this. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. I believe that we have one of the better defensive lines in football. So if you flip it, we have one of the weaker, or I should say unproven offensive lines in the league, and they have a pretty solid defensive line that has some stars on it, upcoming athletes as well. And especially with what they did to us last year in the game, they were pretty dominant up front against us. I'm just happy that we're going to see some quality reps in these practices. We have two joint practices with the Detroit Lions, and according to Dan Campbell, both of those practices are going to be fully padded. So I expect it to be very, very physical. But let's go ahead and just talk about the Detroit Lions just a little bit. Last year, they almost made the playoffs. That offense is probably one of the more explosive offenses, in the league. And they just missed the playoffs last year. A lot of people feel like if they were able to make the playoffs, that they probably would have been able to make some noise. It was one of those teams that they say, you don't want to play at the end of the year. And they were absolutely that. You can say that same thing about the New York Giants, but there are a lot of people that are very, very high on the Detroit Lions, and a lot of people are even expecting them to win that division. So I'm excited to see what this team can do, that being the New York Giants versus that Detroit Lions team. I think the toughness that they have as a Detroit team, and the toughness and the history with New York Giants, I think it's going to be a good clash, and again, a very, very physical practice. So let's just talk about some of these matchups, right? So there's a bunch of matchups I want to see. I want to see John Michael Schmitz versus somebody other than Dexter Lawrence. I want to see that. I want to see what Andrew Thomas does against Aiden Hutchinson. I want to see Joshua Zudu versus a guy like McNeil. I want to see Azeez Ojulari versus Penei Sewell. I want to see Kayvon Thibodeau versus Penei Sewell. I want to see Deontay Banks versus Marvin Jones. I want to see Amon St. Brown versus whoever's going to be in the slot corner spot, whether it be flat, whether we rotate Adoree Jackson, whether it's Trey Hawkins, whoever we kick inside. I want to see these type of matchups, and I think we're going to get a lot of good reps. And even more, I want to see what Jalen Hyatt does against cornerbacks for another team. We've seen what he's done to the New York Giants throughout training camp, and he's been exciting, fantastic. The expectations for Jalen Hyatt are now starting to creep up even more. But I think that if he has the success that he had against the Detroit Lions in the practice, it's just going to be the icing on the cake. It's going to be no more handcuffs, and let's see exactly what Jalen Hyatt is ready to do going into the regular season. So those are some of the matchups I want to look at. Other things I want to see. I want to see Darian Beavers and Micah McFadden and figure out who's going to be that starting linebacker. Maybe that decision is not made this week, but I think whoever is marched out there on the preseason game on Friday is possibly where they're leaning as far as who's the starter going to be. Same thing for the safety spot. If you would have asked me 2-3 weeks ago, I would have said it's Belton's job to lose. Now it's looking like Pinnock has taken that job away from Belton and is holding on to it, has a pretty tight grip on that. So it's going to be a lot of good information that's going to come out of Detroit. Those practices are in Detroit for the people that didn't know that. It is going to be in Detroit. It is going to be on Tuesday and Wednesday. And again, then we have the game on Thursday. Now, the Giants are off today. Depending on when you're watching this video, I'm recording on a Sunday. Probably put this out on a Monday, but the New York Giants will be in Detroit on Tuesday for that practice. And again, we're just waiting to see exactly what, I guess, the identity of the New York Giants is going to be. And again, I said it, Detroit is a physical, tough team with a great offensive line, has some weapons on the outside. They picked up one of the top running backs in the nation. And by all reports, the tight end that they picked up, Sam Laporta, is doing really good in practice as far as chemistry with Jared Goff. Amon St. Brown having also a strong practice. Was it J-Mo, the wide receiver, even though he has that suspension luring, he's had a solid training camp as well. So it's just going to be a lot of good looks, a lot of good reps. I keep on saying it, and it's just that excitement that I have, that I finally get to see this team the way it's been performing against ourselves, against somebody else that's a quality opponent. And then once we get to the preseason game, you're probably going to see us sit a lot of players, but all those guys are on the roster bubble, lower on the depth chart, fighting for starting positions. These are the guys that should be able to shine in the preseason game. So I just wanted to make it a real quick preview of the preseason game versus the Giants in Detroit. Really good presser from Dan Campbell. I shared it on Twitter. He was just talking about the importance of these joint practices, because in some cases where you're going against the same guys every day in practice during training camp, it kind of gets redundant. Then when you throw some new flavor, a new face in front of you, and a new team, the intensity is different, and also you're getting new looks, and that just helps both teams improve in the long run. And I know we only have the one joint practice with the Detroit Lions, but the Detroit Lions have actually 2 joint practices planned. So it's this week with us. Next week, I really don't know who that opponent is, but they're also having joint practices with those teams as well. I know last year for us, we like to do the joint practice with the Jets. That's not going to happen this year because we play the Jets in the regular season, but it's always good to have these joint practices as far as looks, getting your squad together, just that intensity, and because it's different. When it's another team, you go a little bit harder than you do the guy that's your teammate. I'll say that even though we have physical practices, I don't think it's going to be nearly the same as when we go against Detroit in these joint practices. So again, I'm going to leave it there with a quick preview of the game. I will come back with another video probably in the middle of the week, talking more about the updates, if they give out more information about who's going to be starting, who's going to be sitting, injury updates, people coming off the PUP list, people getting put on the PUP list, things like that. All those exciting details, I will be doing that. That's pretty much how I make the shift from the training camp recaps. Then once we get into the preseason, I'm doing the previews of the game, the weekly updates, and then also the reaction of that preseason game. So that's where we're moving into that part of the season. Let me know in the comments down below what you want to hear, what type of videos, what type of information you want me to put out. I read all the comments. I enjoy everybody that's vibing with me right now, and I just want to see this channel continue to grow and grow with your opinions, grow with your input and things like that, because at the end of the day, I'm just a Giants fan, just like you guys are Giants fans, and I appreciate all the love and support you guys are giving me. So again, I want to thank you guys for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.